Hello and welcome back, MTG Burgeoning fans. Here we are with another Tales from MTG Burgeoning LGS edition. And like we've been doing all along, folks, in this series, if you are expecting a top 10, if you are expecting some sort of rewards, if you are hoping for some kind of a deck tech, this is not going to be the video for you. This is just sitting back with the chill to the max, if we're still allowed to say that in this day and age, sorting out some cards and just swapping some memories. Now, when last we left, when we were talking about Burgeoning's foray into his LGS's EDH Commander League, we talked about his very first full season and how successful that was. Store Championship. It was so awesome. Decide, of course, well, we're coming back for season number 2 because, well, when you're the champ, baby, you defend that until you lose it. So, with the new season, it was time to declare a new commander and a new type of build. And for this season, it was going to be a little bit different because this is when Conspiracy had released. And with Conspiracy came the Conspiracy cards. So the owners of the shop had crafted this particular season to be built around conspiracies. Each player in the league was allowed to play with 3 conspiracies. There were a couple of conspiracies that were banned. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember the names of them, of course, because this was back in the day. Some of them were banned. I'm pretty sure one of them was the Mythic one. I'm pretty sure that was one of the ones that was banned. And honestly, I don't even remember all 3 of the ones that I picked, but I definitely remember 2 of the ones I had picked. One of the conspiracies I picked was whenever you cast one creature, search your library for a creature that you had predetermined to be kind of connected with that creature when you cast it. It was one of the conspiracies. So at this time, and that was one of the conspiracies that I had chosen. And at the time for this season, I decided to go with an Isamaru Hound of Kanda deck. Now, let me caution the MTG Burgeoning fans and audience right now is that it was not the Isamaru Hound of Kanda budget build that we did on the channel back in 2020. It was definitely not that. I don't believe I would have had any degree of success. Well, no, I can't really say that. Let me tap the brakes there because that deck is a lot better than it may let on. I wouldn't have had the same degree of success, let's put it that way, particularly in a league where everyone's trying to do their best to accumulate the points needed to get to the Invitational, and then try to win during that Invitational. So with an Isamaru deck, the conspiracy that I had selected would link Isamaru as the commander, which allowed me, when I cast that, to search my library for another creature that was linked to that particular conspiracy and put it into my hand. The second creature that I had selected was Palace Jailer, and he was 2 and 2 white, and I believe when he came into play, you became the Monarch, which was important because during league play, if you introduced the Monarch to your game, you got so many points for doing so. Additionally, there was points given for First Blood. If you were the first player to deal combat damage in the game, you got points for First Blood. So the conspiracy that allowed me to fetch out the Palace Jailer almost always guaranteed me the Monarch point, and then having Isamaru as a 1-drop commander almost always guaranteed me the First Blood point. So I had a pretty high level of confidence that at the end of each pod, either win or lose, I was going to have a good number of points saved up in the bank to try to reach that Invitational. And of course, it being Isamaru, it was a straight Voltron build. You know, equip him up, aura him up, give him some protection, and just let him bark and bite and chase everyone else around the battlefield. And it proved to be a success. I ended up placing, points-wise, by the time the season was over, I had second most points, I believe, out of the league, right behind the Selesnian Salvala player. That was a player who was playing with the the parlay version of Salvala. You know, she had the parlay mechanic. You would tap her, each player would draw a card, And then, each player would reveal the top card of their library. And if it was a land, or if it was a land, I think if it was like a non-land card, you added a green mana, or if it was a land, you added a green mana, or something like that. And then each player got to draw those cards. So he had crafted this degenerate Selvala deck where he was able to parlay, untap, parlay, gain all this mana, draw all these cards, get so far ahead with his spells and his resources that it was very tough to get back to a level playing field in order to get this guy to, fall, to beat him. And he was also playing with cards like Aetherflux Reservoir was in that deck because he was casting so many spells. He just one-shot somebody for 50 points. The Selvala player, who was the number 1 point getter for my second full season number 2 for me, he was also the 5-color Chromat player from season 1 that we talked about during our last installment of the Tales from MTG Burgeoning LGS edition. So he made it in as number 1, and I made it in as number 2. With him being 1 and me being 2, I knew there was no chance of us meeting in the first round of invitational pods because of the way in which the seeding went. 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. So after playing in my pod, I ended up not being the victor of my first invitational pod, but I did earn enough points to make it to the final pod based upon, again, Monarch, First Blood, couple of another thing, another big point getter for me during this second season was you got so many points if you cast your commander more than anyone else. Well, playing Isamaru, who's a 1-drop, I was routinely casting him 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a game. So that was another almost guaranteed number of points I was going to get. So after getting lucky with the point, well, I shouldn't say lucky, after accumulating enough points during the invitational, during the first round pods of the end of season invitational, I got to the final table. And at the final table, yes, it was the Selesnya Selvala parlay player. He made it. And there were a couple of other players there too. So the game is getting off for the store championship. And things are going okay. I mean, mono white Voltron with Isamaru doesn't get any better than that. So we're getting down to the end of the game. One player ends up getting Aetherflux Reservoir 50 straight to the face, which was at the time a bit of a risky move because that left the Selvala player with, if I remember, I left him at less than 10 life at that point in time. However, he was able to recover a lot more quickly than I would have liked to have seen. So unfortunately, we're battling back and forth, points here, points there, your typical game of Commander with Magic the Gathering. And he ends up putting a lock onto the board. He's got Selvala into play. He's got Avacyn, Angel of Hope in play. All of his permanents have Indestructible. He has Privileged Position, giving all of his permanents Shroud, all of his other permanents Shroud, and he also had in play a Greater Oromancy, giving all of his other enchantments Shroud. So he was putting up a lock that was going to be very, very tough to beat. And near the end of the game, I'm doing the math in my head and I'm seeing what can be done. Now, I can't destroy anything. I can't target anything for removal because of the Shroud. I can't destroy anything because of the Indestructible. So I'm left trying to contemplate, can I swing in for enough lethal commander damage to take Selvala out? Because at this time, I have a Whisper Silk Cloak on the battlefield, along with Isamaru and a bunch of other equipment that I could attach to him, swing, and hopefully deal enough lethal commander damage. So as he's preparing to end his turn, which would lead into my last turn, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, I need a land. I just have to draw a land. If I draw plains, If I draw any land that I can tap for mana, I can equip enough because he's tapped out completely. He has no resources available to him because he's hiding behind this massive pillow fort of Shroud and Indestructibility. And I'm thinking, I just need a land. If I can get a land, I can strap on enough equipment and then put on the Whisper Silk Cloak and slide right in for some unblockable lethal commander damage. Just give me the land. Just give me the land. Passes to my turn. I draw not a land. And alas, I was unable to defeat him, and he would end up on his next turn sending in enough damage to put me out of the game as the last player eliminated. So in some ways, he exacted some revenge because I did pull the Blightsteel Colossus trick on him during Season 1 to eliminate him from the final pod, and he pillow forted me down to submission the following season. So for your boy here, for your boy MTG Burgeoning, he starts off a full season as the number 1. He finishes the second full season as number 2. What will hold for Season 3? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned to find out.